My opposition claims that Edward Snowden is a whistleblower instead of a negligent traitor. And one of their main points is that he did not face a fair trial in the United States, so he cannot be considered a traitor. I would like to push back against this point because there is no requirement that you face a trial to betray your country. As the Oxford English Dictionary defines it, a traitor is one who is false to his allegiance to his sovereign government of his country. Nowhere in this definition does it require that the perpetrator has faced a fair trial or a trial of any kind in the country he betrayed. If this were the case, then any person ever who lived in a country, turned over information, or harmed that country, and then left without punishment would not be a traitor, and then I don't really know what we're talking about if they aren't considered traitors. Overall, I think that he is a traitor because he does cause harm to his country. He allowed for many of our foreign relations to degrade because of the information he released.
Contrary to the opposition's stance, many of the outcomes were certainly not positive for America. At best, some of these are neutral outcomes, but exposing thousands of secret intelligence documents to the world, especially to China, is not friendly towards America. Regardless of any outcomes, the sheer number of documents that were released indicate that Snowden was not being careful about what exactly he was releasing and what sort of effects that the release would cause. What are the chances that Edward Snowden read each and every document that he downloaded?
Edward Snowden did in fact violate the Espionage Act of 1917. The Espionage Act mainly, even though it was very vague, had one main point that was very concrete in its lawful duties, and it was this: it was that the intent of the person was to harm the U.S. Edward Snowden is not clear whether he was trying to harm the U.S. or not. However, his actions by running away to China and Russia make it very hard to determine in his favor that he was actually trying to protect U.S. citizens and not trying to harm the U.S. and then trying to hide away behind the blanket of a whistleblower. Now, during 2020, a court hearing has confirmed that the Verizon records that was held by the NSA about the Verizon's users was in fact illegal. However, the Verizon records which the NSA held that Snowden released was not the only file that Snowden released. There were many other files, those of which that were very confidential and top secret, that he did not review. Even though the files about phone records should have been released, other files should not have, and that is due to his negligence, and that is one of the reasons why he is a negligent traitor. Snowden also traveled to China and Russia. There are other nations that he could have traveled to that would have helped him out, such as Sweden or Switzerland. There are neutral nations that are powerful and are not willing to just concede to the U.S., and they would have been much better options compared to China and Russia that are not known to be against the U.S. Now, it is not wrong for Snowden to run away. He has his right to preserve himself and his family, to protect them. However, the way in which he did so was not good. It was irresponsible, and it did not show a very thoughtful process of thought in the way that he was planning about doing things. And it's for these reasons that it is hard to determine whether he did things on purpose, but it seems to appear as if it was done out of irresponsibility, without thinking clearly, and negligence. And this is the reason why Edward Snowden is a negligent traitor.